Around a decade ago, we experienced a major shift in what defines a change maker. From the traditional idea of being on the big screen to be influential, we witnessed an entire generation redefine who they were going to call trendsetters. An alternate world emerged. This world, inside applications such as Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, began building a community. This community will help you understand the vastness of this community. To put things in perspective, out of the total world population of 7.9 billion, close to 4 billion people are social media users. Let that sink in. Out of a total population of 7.9 billion, 4 billion are social media users. Almost half the world's population is part of the online community. Now, we here on NewsX, over the course of our show, Influencer A-List, will break this down for you. We'll break down the impact that influencers have and hear from them what it means to be a digital content creator. To kick this launch off and to kick this show off, let's begin by understanding the concept of what influencers are and what makes one famous. Joining us on the broadcast is Nauheed Cyrusi, actor and influencer who made the switch from TV to digital. Also joining us on the broadcast in just a short while is going to be Tanvi Seth, who is a counseling psychologist, and Tanvi is going to help us understand the psychology behind being an influencer. Firstly, if I could quickly take my first question from Nauheed. Nauheed, thank you so much for joining us on NewsX.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Nauheed, what makes you famous?
What makes me?
Famous. What makes you an
What makes me
influencer?
famous? Wow. We've gone straight into the questions. So what makes me famous is a very random question, I would think, in the sense, define famous, right? That would be the very first thing I would ask you in return to that question. But I think what makes somebody click, whether it's on TV, whether it's in the digital world, is just being relatable. Because like you mentioned, imagine 4 million people watching you, going through what you are saying you're using, things you're doing, they're watching you. And of course, everyone that is even on TV wants to be emulated. So I think it is how relatable you are. The more relatable you are, the more you are liked, because obviously people can find a connect. So that's my answer to this.
Right. Nauheed, also tell us what you think is better. Is it TV or is it digital in terms of having a connection with your fans or with your followers?
Well, I mean, I can't really make the comparison, but to be very honest, of course you have a connect with your audience on social media because you can virtually chat with them, and that's what I do. I engage a lot with my followers as well. But whereas on television, you can't do that because the reality is you are behind a screen that they have no access to. So where connectivity is concerned, definitely the digital world is a whole lot more accessible.
Right. But do you think that you're taken seriously sometimes, after being an actor and
well,
after
it depends
having
on how good or bad you are. If you're going to make loony videos, I mean, if you go through my pages, sorry, that's my dog that's come into the screen. But I think it depends on what content you make and who your followers are. So for me, I started becoming an influencer very organically. I still don't even consider myself one. And there are lots of times where I ask my followers that, do you really buy things that I mention? And from the start, I made it very clear that I'm only going to put up things that I use, and only where I believe in is going to make it up on my page. I'm not doing it purely for the money. The money came much later. So, I mean, anyone out there who wants to be an influencer or a content creator that is trying to sell things, well, the reality is initially you will do a whole lot of barter. You have to get your followers to believe what you use is really what you use. And that's how seriously or not you'll be taken.
So does it get difficult?
If I'm going to sit around advertising every single day for maybe a face cream, or every single day I'm going to be saying, today I'm drinking this, today I'm eating that, people are going to be like, every day you change that, every day you change the brand of your toothpaste. So I think that's the thing. Like, I only put up content when I have personally used a product where I believe in it and it's a part of my daily life. That's what comes up on my page eventually.
So, Nauheed, does it sometimes then get difficult to say no to some partnerships because do you have to give your perspective? Do you have to say no to them, which gets
To be
difficult?
very honest, not for me because I also come from an industry where I have said no to a whole lot of other work, and rejection is a very big part of the film industry as well. So no, not for me because I've come from a world where I've said no to doing certain ads that I was just like I'm never going to endorse these. Similarly, when it comes to films, I was like, no, the script just doesn't resonate with me. So not really.
Okay, and then Nauheed, so once you put out, let's say, some kind of content, right? Be it a promotion, be it a sponsorship, be it a partnership, are views more important for you, or is it the fact that the kind of influence that you bring about, the kind of change that you bring about?
So, actually speaking, that's a very good question. The reality is, following will come. I have never been one. I started out with 3,000 followers, and even then, I was doing the exact same thing that I'm doing now. So, I realized that I built a community over 2 years, 3 years, not even three, I think it's over 2 years. I built a community. I love engaging with my followers, and which is why there are times when I see followers and I'm like, it's not about do I want them on my page? Will they engage and bring about what I've made this page for? If not, then I don't even see the need for them on my page. If they're going to just be that random bot that is going to be commenting on some rubbish and like these weird, strange remarks, straight block. So, I mean, for me, to be very honest, the engagement is a whole lot more important. Views can be bought, following can be bought. So I've just never been one of those to get encouraged or to be sort of enticed by those kind of numbers. No.
Right. So Nauheed, stay with us. I have with me a mom blogger, Harpreet Suri. Thank you for joining us today. Tell us about what you do and what makes you famous, what makes you an influencer.
What makes me an influencer? Helping moms out make choices maybe makes me an influencer because their trust on me is everything that I've earned all these years, like 4.5 years.
We're glad that you could join us today with your kid. Happy to have you both on air. Also, tell us about the conversations that you have with the community that you've built online.
So earlier it was majorly about talking about products, sharing my life. Now it's more about I'm mentoring a lot of young mom influencers. I've built like a virtual community wherein I'm helping them, become a blogger or become an entrepreneur for that matter. On Tuesday, I'm doing a workshop. So I do a lot of workshops. But now I feel as an influencer, my responsibility is not just to share, please buy this. This is great for your child. No. It's more to now do with how I'm building my community. So work career here, I'm just trying to, in this pandemic, create as many business opportunities for people that I can. And these younger bloggers who don't know, who are very confused with what they're doing, do they even want to do this or not is a question that I always ask them. So,
Yeah.
So, Harpreet, when you started out, or let's say a couple of years back, there was no set formula as to how you can be an influencer, how you can earn, in fact, from digital content creation. But now things seem to have changed a little, right? If I'm not mistaken. So, Harpreet, what is the difference? Let's say 5 to 7 years back, was it more difficult to become an influencer than it is today?
it was, I think, easier that time. I think I mentioned you in my interview also, for 16 years of my corporate career, I was told by a lot of women who worked with me in my job that you should be an influencer, you should be a blogger at that time. Yeah. Now that, at times I'm just nervous that if all of us keep influencing, who's going to buy? Because now everybody is an influencer, and in this pandemic, everybody has become an influencer. So that's why the workshops I'm doing with women all across the country and across the globe, I ask them this question. Do you even want to be an influencer, or we are just doing this to open gifts? This is not the job that we have signed up for. It's a very, very serious profession. Your child's diaper, your child, whatever you're selling. I was just doing, just before this, I was shooting for an oil brand, which I use. So I've used it on myself. And that's when I've promised my followers that I've used it on myself, on my daughter, and you can definitely use it. It's a big responsibility, but up to Sabhi is becoming influence. Would you agree with me, Noshi?
No, no, absolutely. And very, very well put that if everyone starts influencing, who's going to buy? Really, that's a good one.
Okay, so, alright, so we're going to come to you, Nauheed, in just a second. Let me quickly first also speak with Harpreet's daughter, who's also with us on the broadcast.
They want to talk to you.
Hi. Okay, help us understand.
You don't know her name?
What is it like to have a mother as an influencer? कैसा लगता है जब मम्मा वीडियोस बनाती हैं?
She's 4.5. I'll have to answer for her. My son has been better. He's been punished and sent to Nani house because I think he's become बहुत बिगड़ गया है. So I told my mother to mend him the way she's mended me. She's too young, but I'll share a little experience.
Yeah, tell us.
With these kids, with our kids, I don't want to tell them that they are popular. Aya is too young to understand this. I shoot with her in very natural settings, wherein she is not pushed so we do stuff like Lego, which she loves. So I'll shoot for that. I will never take up a brand which she's not interested in. So I don't do clothing much for her because she is not happy. She's like, Mama, mujhe chupta hai. So I will not pick up a brand. So I want her to be happy to be in front of the camera. It has to be very natural. That's why I think my videos, God's grace, do very well because they're very natural. They're shining, smiling. Like those. You were getting bored or she's like, why have you got me here, Mom?
Right. So Nauheed and Harpreet, this is for both of you, but I'll start with Nauheed. Could you tell us about, like you both have talked about, everybody now has started influencing, has started their own page. But do you think there's a certain formula that works? Nauheed, do you think there's a formula that worked for you?
There is definitely a formula that works. And see, the reality is there can be a million people who want to be everything. Like a million people want to be an actor, a million people want to be a doctor. Only the ones that eventually work hard actually get the formula right, which I think has always been be very you. The more you are going to try and be somebody else, or the more you try and imitate or emulate, that's not you. So again, people aren't going to relate to you. They're going to be like, she's trying to be that one, so why would we watch her? We would rather be listening to the original.
That's the original one, yes.
Yeah. So I think the formula is very simple. I really very, very, very honestly believe be yourself, and genuinely, the more relatable you are, the more people will be drawn to you. And even today, there are certain things that have 1 million views on my page, but there are certain things that have 10, 20,000 views. Do I get bothered by it? Maybe for a split second, like, array, but then you're over that. So
इतनी मेहनत करी और ये वाला वीडियो अच्छा नहीं करा.
मैं ऐसे कभी नहीं सोचती. मैं बोली यार ये क्यों नहीं चला, मतलब. And don't forget, the Instagram algorithm controls you beyond what you think it does, okay? So that's what I realized, that when it changes and when it's not in your favor, you have to start making what they want you to make. The minute you realize that, so the formula is understand yourself, know what works for you, know that there's something else controlling this as well, but understand what works and what not, even in those times where Insta is concerned, because I'm only probably on Insta. And so that's what has worked for me. And I genuinely have never bothered so much about the number. I really don't, because I know how easy it is to get numbers by just shelling out a few. So yeah.
We also have with us Tanvi Seth, who's a counseling psychologist. I'd like to ask you, Tanvi, about is there a certain personality type that would click as an influencer? Now we have, of course, our influencers who have told us that there is a certain formula that works. But do you think there's a personality type that works?
So thank you so much for having me here. So as I come from psychology background, definitely have studied psychology, studied about the different types of personality and how the personality largely influence what we do in our lives. So according to a lot of studies and also while I was researching on it, They basically talk about influencers have a type I personality. Type I personality is basically they will be very enthusiastic in nature, very extroverted in nature, very outgoing in nature, more of like people pleasing personalities that they would want to be around people. And at the same time, they would want to have that attitude of that sense of humor also along with it. So that's the common personality type, which is commonly seen with most of the influencers.
Okay, all right. Let's quickly take
I see that,
Nauheed's
yeah.
stance on this. Nauheed, so Tanvi is a psychologist, she's a counseling psychologist, and she's just told us that you need to be more of, if I may call it so, Tanvi, an extrovert to be an influencer. Nauheed and Harpreet, I'm going to take a question from both of you, but first, Nauheed, do you think that's somewhere true? Nauheed, do you identify as an extrovert?
Can I be
Yes.
very honest? Oh, sorry, who's answering?
No,
Who's
no,
answering?
please, no, please
Go ahead, Nauheed.
So can I be very honest? The reality is being in front of a camera sometimes converts an introvert in reality to an extrovert. Extrovert meaning I can actually have a conversation because I'm having it with myself. So I don't know if the extrovert introvert in reality helps, but it's a facade. A lot of people can actually put up a facade. But having said that, I don't know how long the facade will, how far it will take you, because the reality is eventually you will come up, and that's the truth. How long can you continue putting this facade up? How long can you say, I love this cream and la la la? Eventually, if it is what works is you bringing yourself, your lifestyle onto, your page, then I agree.
It has to come very
introverts-
naturally.
Correct, absolutely.
It has to be so
yeah.
natural to you that for me, selling this cup of tea should not be, or even talking about it, not even selling, talking about it should be very natural to me. So when I think back, the personality you described as like like an influencer, I'm very extrovert. I have to travel solo. I travel the world around solos. When my son was younger, I took him with me and I traveled. The whole world went crazy, frenzy that she's gone to US with, he was what, 5? I did a 2-month tour and traveled all across US. And I was not an influencer that time, but I just did it because I felt like doing it. So yeah, extrovert is something that comes very naturally to us. What do you say?
And I think people, imagine, nobody wants to chat. An introvert generally is not going to start a conversation. And that's the introvert.
Right.
Their personality is a quiet
Tanvi,
one.
now,
So how
why
can an
don't you tell
introvert
us-
per se, with that personality come in front of a camera? They have to convert. They have to become somebody who is like this la 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 in front of a camera, but this
Tanvi, do you
timid,
think it's possible
shy.
then?
I'm very
If somebody
shy.
has, an introverted personality, do you think they can be taught to become an influencer? Like it's just a skill that you need to get trained to become an influencer,
I can't hear you much. I'm so sorry. I can't hear you much.
Tanvi,
It's just
if you can hear me
influencing
now,
be taught, basically.
if you can hear me now, Tanvi, why don't you take that question and tell us? do
I
you think-
couldn't hear you well, so can you please repeat
Do you
the
think,
question once
right,
again?
do you think that it is possible for an introvert to be trained to become an influencer if, because it's, like they said, it's just something that, of course, sometimes it's all a facade, but do you think it's something that can be taught, something that it's just a skill that can be then inculcated?
Okay, so personality is something which we all are born with and the experiences we have. So it's not something as a skill set which I can probably teach or somebody else can teach. Probably it can be for a short duration. I can teach them how to talk, how to communicate, but then it's something which is innate. So it got to be within me if I want to be an influencer. So psychologists usually have a personality type where I can't shy away that I can't be seeing my clients. I have to constantly talk. I got to be sensitive enough to understand the other person's issue. So there are a lot of research and also a lot of studies which have gone into understanding people's personality type, and according to the professions they end up choosing up later on in their life. And it comes along with the early experiences, how the child is being put across by the parents. Also the developmental issues also comes along. So there is personality is something which eventually grows each day, but it's not a skill which I can teach or anybody else can teach.
Even I think that it's not something to be taught, because a lot of people, I see these courses say how to be an influencer. There is nothing on how to be an influencer. You cannot, it's either in you or it's not in you. That is why I always ask people, do you want to be? Do you want to do this? Do you want to every day get, it looks very easy. It's not. You have to get ready every single day and, be in front of the camera, talk to your audience, reply on DMs. I slept at 6:30 in the morning last night. I was just strategizing my next 20 days with my team. It's not easy, People,
So then-
and one of the teachers.
Okay,
Sorry.
Harpreet, tell us, you can't teach anybody to be an influencer, all that, we've established that. But, as a mother, you were telling me a little while back that your son wants to be a YouTuber. So do you think that there is something that you can pass down to him, certain mistakes that you made that you can maybe prevent him from making?
What's your last line? I missed it.
Is there anything that you can pass on to your son? Because you already are an influencer. Do you think there are some pro tips, if I may call them, that you can pass on to your son as well?
Yes, what I always tell him, he's a gamer and he wants to become a gamer and then talk on YouTube about gaming. I always tell him the only thing which I feel every mother, any which ways teaches their children is to be grateful. Arhan is a very popular child online. A lot of my followers tell me that we follow you to see what Arhan is doing because their sons are similar age of my daughter. So A, being grateful of this world that we are in. B, it is not real. This whole thing should not go to your head. Arhan goes to school. Kids have changed their school. Their parents have met me. Arhan's teachers compliment him on his work. And he tells me, and I do it very, I make it very normal. I'm like, yeah, you did a good job. And I keep telling him that don't get swayed by all this because this is all very temporary. You never know. See, we are all Instagrammers. You never know when Instagram shuts down like TikTok. You cannot have a heartbreak then. So I tell him, have an alternate career in your mind, which you might end up doing if not being this one. So yes, be grateful for what you're getting and don't get swayed by all this. This is all temporary. You never know the day. So for myself also, I say, I never know when it just vanishes, yeah. But the connections I've made with my followers is something that's going to go on with me, whichever channel I choose next. So,
Yeah. Okay.
Right. Tanvi, also tell us about the psychological impact that being an influencer can create, because there is a lot of engagement that you need to track. You need to know, whether people are engaging with your content, and that of course can have an adverse effect on the psyche of people who are of course influencers, who are trying to reach to a large number of people. Tell us about the impact that you think it creates.
So definitely being an influencer doesn't come that easy to anybody. Both of them are influencers and both of them are moms and managing other works as well.
No, I'm not a mom.
Oh, so sorry. It does have a lot of psychological impact. Like she said that she slept at 6:30 in the morning, managing and strategizing. So it is creating a difference in her schedule, also impacting that stress comes along. There would be days wherein that feeling of being burnt out comes there, where she doesn't want to interact with the audience, feels like if I have so many likes, I have so many followers, but probably not being able to connect well with the work. So these are some very, very common psychological impact. There are influencers who undergo a lot of anxiety who are just starting off with their journey. Will I be successful in terms of getting so many likes, so many followers?
Even the bigger ones. The mental health problem that Komal Pandey talks about, I'm in awe of her work. And she talks a lot about because she's really told a lot for how she chooses to be in her dressing. Okay. People really troll her, and I've seen that trolling. So I'm sure it must be very heartbreaking, yeah, to just see people writing shit to you.
Most certainly, in fact, the one common thread, we've spoken to multiple influencers while we were making the show, and one common thread is that hate comments is something that every single influencer has experienced. If I could quickly rope in Nauheed, who has been kind enough to still be with us on the broadcast. Nauheed, you've been in the television industry, right? And now you're a digital influencer. Is there a certain difference? Because on digital, if somebody is putting out hate comments, then it's out there for the world to see. Versus
So I'll tell
television.
you something. Well, the reality is, never mind that I've done films, never mind that I've been on TV, never mind that I'm now on Instagram. There is even a person who hasn't will always have people who like them and not. I genuinely feel like mothers grounding their kids right from the beginning is first thing to be done. How am I an extrovert? I actually was thinking while you all were discussing. My mom made sure I went to everything extracurricular, like elocution, ye, wo, falana. I have done everything in school. And that's why my personality is like what it is today. I can make a friend, whether I want to or not, meaning my point being, I can talk to somebody, a stranger, very easily. It comes easy to me, even though I'm a shy person by nature. So hate comments or even gossiping is very similar to me. I feel like, yes, a hate comment can actually affect you a whole lot more if you give it that much more importance.
Right.
Everything affects you. A hate comment will affect you as much as a movie not doing well enough will affect you.
Right.
But the reality is not everyone's going to like you. Once, this line is very loosely used. Not everyone's going to like you. The truth is, if you actually wait out and put a lot of weight on that really not everyone is going to like you, and that's okay because you yourself don't like everyone, everything changes. I also feel like I have come to a stage in my life through a lot of work on myself where I don't let it affect me. My reaction is, why should I engage with somebody who just wants attention? And I really believe everyone who puts out one negative comment has some form of something brewing in him or her.
Right. Thank you, Nauheed.
They are jealous, they may not be, they may be wanting your job.
Nauheed and Harpreet, due to a paucity of time, we'll have to wrap up this conversation, but we'll definitely have more influencers on our show talking about such important things surrounding influencing and various aspects. Thank you, Tanvi, Nauheed and Harpreet.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.